In today's recording, I want to talk about isolation. So if you're feeling like you've been spending too much time working on your own, or you feel isolated as a leader, or you're trying to strike out into the world to do things differently, maybe from how your family did, from what was expected of you growing up, but you feel like you're all alone in the process, then this recording is for you. My name's Nicola Harker, and I'm a doctor and empowerment coach. And I particularly work with amazing women who are fed up of spinning plates and dealing with everybody else's crises and feeling like they're not fully bringing themselves into their blazing glory into the world. It's my absolute mission to help you to thrive and to learn the techniques and the strategies that will help you to do that. So today we're talking about isolation. And this is a subject that I thought about a good deal during the pandemic. And I noticed for myself working as a solopreneur that isolation is a real challenge. You can spend too much time on your own. And also when you're trying to build something, whether it's in business or whether you're trying to take your organization forward as a leader, or you're striking out on your own for the first time. Isolation is a real challenge because actually we all need connection. Even if you're someone who would think of yourself as an introvert, we can get lonely. And you might have been feeling like you have everything on your shoulders and you have to deal with everything on your own. So if you've been feeling somewhat isolated, I really want to speak to you about those things today. Connection is really important, and it's actually on my top list of priorities, whether I'm looking at my year planner, whether I'm looking at my goals for a month or my week or my daily goals. Connection is actually right up there at the top for me. I really want to explain to you why that is. So we're hardwired for connection. We are social animals. But actually also I see success, I see, whatever you want to call evolving oneself, myself, yourself, as not just about, doing more, being more, earning more. I actually see success as the depth of our connections, the way that we work with other people is, I think, for me, it's a core value. It's so important. And it's not something that I was really aware of earlier in my career, how important connection is. But one of the practices that I've had in the last few years is to regularly check in on a day-to-day basis with the question of how can I cultivate connection today? And that might mean with my kids or with my husband. It might mean reaching out to a friend. It might be with other business owners or other doctors or other speakers, other coaches, or with my clients. But on a day-by-day basis, I've made it a practice to cultivate connection, simply because I know that that's something that we as human beings, we seem to need. We thrive when we have great connections. So my first question for you today, and this is a bit of a reflective recording, is to just take a bit of a rain check around your level of connection. Are you, firstly, spending too much time on your own? Secondly, are you also working under an assumption that you are on your own? And do you need more connection in your life? And what one thing could you do to cultivate connection in the next few days, this week, this month? Maybe 2023 might become a year of connection for you. So some examples of things that I've done for myself as a business owner, I made the conscious choice not only to have a coach and mentor to support my growth and development, but also to join a group coaching program for a few months to build that sense of connection and of shared purpose and of shared truth seeking, and to feel part of something. Another way to do this is volunteering. You know, if you're lacking connection in your life, volunteering has been shown to be an excellent way to just to tick that box that says I'm building connection week by week by being part of something on a shared mission. So I invite you to just take a little rain check, give yourself a bit of a score. Where am I at the moment around isolation and connection? And what could I do today to reach out to someone, send someone a card, a message, some flowers, make a call that will help you to cultivate connection? But the second aspect of this recording is that I want to also highlight for you why we tend to avoid connection, which is crazy considering that we know that it's something that humans need in order to thrive. Why do we avoid connection? Well, when we're struggling, when the brain goes into threat mode, we find it hard to look left or right, and we tend to isolate ourselves. So your brain will start to cook up a story that says, I'm the only person who's struggling. I'm the only person who feels like this. Other people are doing better than me. Other people don't make as much of a mess up as I do. And you can see from those kind of phrases that might go through your mind how isolating those thoughts are. The brain loves to do this. I don't know why. I think it's just the way we're hardwired in terms of perhaps our primitive survival instincts. We tend to pull inwards when we're struggling. We actually avoid connection. And when I'm working with groups, you know, a lot of the work I do is around moving towards those edges of vulnerability, towards those emotions that we've been perhaps stuffing down and hiding away and avoiding looking at. And what the brain loves to do is to say, no, 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 it's not safe to go towards emotions. And we're afraid that if we connect with someone on a deeper level, that our emotions will spill out onto the surface. So if somebody says, how are you really? That you might cry because actually underneath you're really struggling. Or if you allow yourself to feel strong connections, that there's a fear that those connections might be taken away, that you might lose that person. And so we avoid going deep because of the fear of loss. But that's a shame, because that means we're missing out on 50% of the experiences of life. We can't, you know, feel the great joys in our life without love and connection. But the brain does love to avoid that. That vulnerability zone makes us run away. But I really want to remind you that that avoidance of connection, that avoidance of vulnerability, it creates a cage around you. It's building a wall that, yes, it might protect you in the first instance from that vulnerability, but it actually separates you from the support and love of other people. And also, when you build a wall, you actually tend to lose touch with how you feel on the inside as well. So you're so busy holding up those shields and armor that you can forget what you really feel or need on the inside. I was working with a client just this morning who had a couple of really challenging situations coming up. And I was noticing in her, and relating to the fact that my brain loves to do this as well, that her instinctive response to upcoming difficulty was for the brain to go straight to, I'm on my own, I've got to be in charge, I've got to come up with all of the solutions. And I was really noticing how that instinctive behavior that says, I've got to hold all my cards close to my chest, I'm on my own, is incredibly isolating and actually not particularly empowering or helpful as a leader, as someone who's trying to inspire positive change in the world. So I asked this client, what was the belief that she was holding? And she said, you know, I've imposed this change on everyone. It's all on me. And I asked her, how did she feel when she was having that thought? And it was making her feel awful and guilty and responsible and weighed down. And I was observing all of these emotions coming up in this wonderful client that I was working with. And I could see the sense of isolation building around her as this belief, I'm on my own, was prevailing, was coming through. And I asked her, what would you prefer to believe? And she was not really sure what I meant to start with. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. So I just kept pushing. As a coach, that's my job. What would you prefer to believe? And eventually, what came out? She would prefer to believe we are a team. And immediately, her body language, her face color, everything changed when the belief we are a team was forefront in her mind. So I wanted to share this example with you because it's really interesting how the brain works. When an emotion bubbles up, it's actually quite fleeting, but the emotion of fear or, oh my goodness, this is a big project, bubbled up for this client. What happens next is it is a thought, a belief, what we call the feeling that came after the emotion. The label that she put upon that was what then directed her subsequent behavior. So the feeling of like, crikey, this is a tough project, brought up the thought and feeling in her of, I'm responsible. It's all on me. I'm the one who made everybody do this. And from that thought cascaded her behavior, which was isolating herself and feeling guilty and all of those other things. So when we insert a different belief, a more liberating belief, such as we are a team, what happens is that that belief drives your subsequent behaviors. So instead of isolating yourself and feeling like you have to do everything yourself, the belief we are a team results in collaborative conversations, connection, curiosity and empathy about how other people are feeling. And less of that walling in, kind of like, oh my goodness, I've created this situation and I've got to solve it for myself. So I really wanted to just share this example as a way to show you how the brain's tendency to isolate, despite the fact that we need connection, is something that you can choose to adjust the path. You can challenge your brain. When you notice yourself going into, I'm on my own, it's all really difficult, I've got to do it myself, I'm responsible, everyone's going to blame me, or I'm alone in the world and there's nobody to help me, which is another really common one. Gently challenging your brain and moving towards the thought, what would you prefer to believe? And invite that idea of connection. Are you really alone? Do you really have to do it all yourself? Is there really nobody who's interested in helping you? And of course, there's always the possibility of building connection. So there's quite a lot in this recording, lots of reflection, thinking about isolation, thinking about why we want to connect, but also why we avoid connection. And finally, looking at that mindset around connection and how much you might be needing to just switch your thinking in order to adjust your behavior. So I'd really love to hear from you about how you feel about isolation and what thoughts are coming up as you listen to this recording about little tiny steps that you could take on a day-to-day basis to cultivate more connection in your life. I'll see you soon.